too.
Well, we'll list the dates here.
Yep, right there.
We'll put it up right here. We never introduced you. Sam Tinnesz, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll just open with that. All right, peace. I don't know how long we went for. Enlightened or whatever. I wonder what makes someone good, like have that specific skill, like of being able to be like, how can I twist this? Like, now you're just somebody that I used to know.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, what? It's like so obvious, but like.
No, I know.
Yeah, that's the shit though. Like that's the stuff. That's
I mean, the
like,
other thing too is that like now you're just somebody that I used to know. It's such a simple lyric, but the melody is so freaking cool that you don't even care. Like,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. What has he put out anything lately?
I think that boy just cashed out and was like, peace, bye. I'm going back to Australia or New Zealand or wherever he's from. Like, I remember when I first found him, he was like banging on like playground stuff to make sounds, you know, and like recording those sounds and making them parts of his songs.
Was that? What era was that?
I don't even know when that was, but I remember it was a song called Eyes Wide Open or something like that, and it was like he showed how he made the song. It was from hitting these like cables, these metal cables on a playground or something, and then it was, I mean, the song was dope, and I was like, how do you make that sound? And he revealed how he did it, and then next thing I knew, he was like superstar, you know, with that Somebody I Used to Know song, and yeah, I think he gone.
Cashed out and dipped.
He's like, bye. He's like, that was fun. See you later. You know, he's like,
do you dream of doing that? Do you have a dream of doing that? Do you think you would ever do that? Or it's not about that for you? You're like, I got to stay in because it's like, it's fun. Or
I don't know. Sometimes I surprise myself when I, like the other day, I will not name who it is, but I was very, very close to a very large, like female pop artist cut. And in my head, I start going to these places. And it wasn't just like it's getting to them. It was like, it's in their A&R's hands. The A&R is listening to it 7 times, jumping up and down the meeting going, this is it. This is the smash. The management is like, oh my gosh, this is the best song since blah, 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 fill in the blank, you know, hit song. And I'm going, there's no way this is not going to get cut, you know?
Yeah.
But then, of course, artist hears it and is like, love it, respect what you guys have done. I'm not sure. But in the moments before that moment, I was thinking like, man, if I get this, I might just, and it goes to be, and then like, so in my wife calls it my musical fantasy, because she's like, okay, tell me what in your musical fantasy, your weird brain of yours, what's going to happen? And I'm like, okay, they're going to cut it. Yeah. And then after they cut it, they're going to love it so much it's going to be a single. And then once it's a single, we're going to make all these millions on the single. And then I don't need that kind of money. Like, we'll just take it, give some of it away, use the rest of it to live off of. And then at that point, maybe I'll just be like, bye, you know.
Set up our family, you know,
yeah,
whatever.
I mean, it depends, though, you know, when you catch me. Like, this season has been a little bit of a stranger season of, like, self just working through stuff in myself and, you know, I don't know, all sorts of just growing. I feel like I'm just growing as a man, as a person, you know, and I think in these seasons are when something like that would be the most tempting to just be like, bye. Like, I don't want to be around anybody. I just want to grow and figure myself out and be a better person. And a lot of that takes just pulling away and trying to figure out what are the things that you don't love about yourself or that you're doing that aren't good for yourself, you know?
Yeah, like what's feeding that, like, desire? Like, is it actually? So, like, do you think a cut on a big pop artist single would be a bigger deal than, say, like, the hundreds of trailers? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or is it more about also it's not even the financial thing at this? It's more about, like, is it about, like, a working in a certain circle? Is it about, like, a certain tier? Culturally being a part of something in the pop world, like what is the difference for you?
I think not that like, oh my gosh, I'm so over XYZ thing, but it's like, you know, when I was early on, when I was a part of things with my buddy Maggie, her Ruel stuff, it's like I watched her and myself and my buddy Matt and a few other producers and writers with her climbed this mountain, and she touched the peak. I mean, she was most synced artist on Billboard, and then as she's coming down, I started doing, my own thing, and I start in my mind feeling like, wow, things are going great. But it's different. It's like every artist has their different peak. My peak was more like a numbers peak, and like something went gold, and I'm like, but something's about to go platinum, and I'm like, these are things I thought would never happen to someone like me. I'm in my 30s. I am not primetime teenage cute boy doing this. I'm just old dad vibes, doing it. And it's just like, it's fun to be able to like win in this kind of season of your life when you can like actually take it and like not let it affect your ego and become a monster,
Totally.
Like I've been
You're already grounded. You've already been through this shit.
I've been through enough failure,
Totally.
to not let this form me. I'm already formed. So it just, and when people are like, oh, I thought you would, don't ruin this for me. I thought you would be more of a rock star or more mean or whatever. I'm like, bro, like this is the most you're going to get. Like I just can't. I mean, I've been through too much to be that way,
So like when you say that, I have a lot of like thoughts and like questions like shooting in my brain right now that I want to like.
And I didn't answer your
ask
question.
You about.
I think the pop thing would just prove to myself that I could do it.
Yeah.
In
another world, it's like
in another world.
This is the arena in which you're like, I've conquered this kind of. Not
in my head, probably not, but in my head, I'm going check, check,
like this thing, got a Super Bowl thing, got a blah blah blah, got a da da da. Okay, cool. Like now
What's the next
now
mountain?
we're radio. Like now we're people are like pop artists are cutting my. It's just another world to tackle.
Yeah.
And I feel like you also have that energy that I tend to have, which for me. It has in the past gotten the worst of me too, because
totally.
Younger me did music as sport sometimes.
Yep.
And it was like, it ruined it for me. Like it completely ruined it to the point where I like left, like I completely like left the country, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't, like, this isn't a sport. Like, but to me, like, I think the business side of it and I think the entrepreneurial side of it kind of is for me.
Yeah.
And so I just have to be really good at compartmentalizing, like when I'm making art that has nothing to do with commerce, and when I'm playing this and I'm being able to play what feels like a kind of an entrepreneurial game to me, and it's a fun thing, but like that kind of energy of like wanting to be like, I got this, I got that, because you would think after someone cashes in, like Gautier or whatever, or anybody.
Like he has to be the
but
ultimate introvert too. I don't imagine him being like crazy extrovert.
Like hustle mode, like let's be,
like
in the studio.
He probably was like, okay, this was big and whatever. Everybody wants all my time. Like, ooh, inward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel like there would ever be a place where? Because I see you're in sessions every fucking day. You have the output. When I first moved to Nashville, I think that was right around when you and I met.
Yeah.
Was that right when you, what phase, like it was 2017, what era of like,
I was about to say, I'm like,
your,
what year was that? That probably honestly was the tail end of me working on a lot of stuff with Maggie and the Ruel thing, and the beginnings of me really starting to push out music on my own as a solo artist. Because my first real LP, like full-on thing and push with my face on it and everything, was 2017.
Oh my goodness, that was the beginning of your epic.
The solo artist
epic
thing.
Solo artist journey. Okay, cool.
I still wasn't admitting to myself that I was an artist, but I was saying like, I have enough to put some stuff together and put my face on it, and maybe, I don't know if I'm a creative, I'm a vocalist.
So before that, you were writing and producing and singing on other tracks.
Yeah, and just really, I mean, I always have been the third in a room helping artists find their way, and I really like that role. It's a comfortable role for me because I get to sit back, not be the face, not have to be the one who decides what we were talking about, you know what I mean? And it's kind of fun to have somebody walk in and be like, oh my gosh, I'm going through this, and like, I just want to write a song about da-da-da, and then you help them make the best version of that thing that you possibly can, and help them communicate with the producer about what sounds they're going for, and that's like my favorite role when it comes to like writing. I think it's really hard for me even lately to like be interested in myself enough to want to do artist stuff.
Totally.
I'm not like the artist who's like, everything I do is amazing and it's incredible and you should listen to it. I'm more like, oh gosh, you really want to listen to that? I mean, that's kind of boring. And my voice is not that great. I mean, it's all right, but it's not the best. I mean, it's the best I have to offer, but not the best in the world. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
So you like, you'll write stuff sometimes, and some of the time you're like not even sure if it's a Sam Tinnesz song.
I mean, sometimes I'll write stuff and not even sure if it's a song that should exist. You know what I mean? Like I think like is this a Sam song comes down to like, does it sound good on my voice? Like, and I'm pretty intentional. Like if I'm in the room with another artist and a producer, it's not a me song. If it's just me and a producer, a lot of times it's like, well, I have to sing on this. Dang it. You know?
Yeah. You're like by
it's not
default,
always like that, but it's like sometimes it's like that, you know?
Totally. That's so, dude, I didn't know that was like your first solo stuff. Like, right. I remember we got like, I had this like, I don't know, I just like wanted to make friends when I first moved here because I was coming off of this like big backpacking trip.
Yeah.
And my songs in sync started to like do things out of note. Like for me, awesome. It was unexpected. I was like, oh, I guess this is and I didn't really like know who here was in that world. And I was kind of on my own island for a minute there. And then we linked up. I think we also had a write at some point. We had we like wrote.
I think with Matt, maybe.
Yes.
Matt Brownlee.
Matt, and then there was another write with your other buddy. I'm blanking.
Oh, with Joe Williams?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, glasses, yes. But like seeing how you were doing, like you started putting out music as like a solo artist, and then I had like my band Midnight Riot.
Yeah.
And two different worlds, like in the sync world, but then I also had my starting to do my solo artist thing, which doesn't fall, which would be so amazing if I would love if it would all fall under the same category and like the same umbrella.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it, and it's kind of funny because it's like, I don't think I ever openly talked about it, but it's like, I think it's just a known fact that like if you, what Sync's been able to do, like in my world at least, it's like it's like I love to write and be creative, so that's just like checks that box anyway. But like it's allowed me to like do other projects and like finance things and not have to rely doing my podcast, like building a family, like, you know, things that, and I think it I don't know. I feel like it's like, oh, I can't talk about like where all your shit comes. Like, like give me the secret sauce. And it's like, there's no like, I'm like, how did I make my music videos? Like, I paid for it because I landed a thing that wasn't that cool, but like it paid the bills. What do you, and then I see someone like you who is, and I get it because I'm kind of doing it now too. I'm kind of like done it, seen it.
Yeah.
When you go from being like a broke musician to finally being able to like pay a bill or two or three and then finally and then you're like, okay, now I know how this feels. Okay, now I know that like for me there was a point that I had to figure out like what was like driving me, because for a while what was driving me at the very beginning was like, okay, I want to do this and I want to be able to make money doing this.
Yeah, survival.
So I need to pay rent. I need to like, that's what's the pushing.
Yeah.
And then when that's not pushing you, it's like, okay, do I want like more of that? I guess. And then at a certain point, it's like, you're like, well, that's not why, for me, it wasn't why I had begun. Like, I was like, okay, I love that I've spent all this time writing in the studio and I've become like, it's helped me, it's shaped me in the studio, taking these years to like be in Nashville and not necessarily like being someone who plays live as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But I'm finding myself being like, it's time to come back to like the basics of like, and it's like, I'm thinking about this, like Mark Cuban, like he wouldn't be making new business. Like, it's not about money. Like, it's not about money. Like, yes, you need money to survive, but like, you have to feed. There's something else. There was like something else, and I wish maybe there wasn't. Like I wish it would be easier if there wasn't.
I know. I have some friends who are more wired like that, and they do a thing and they freaking smash it. And there's nothing more that they want. They want to just do that thing that makes money, and they'll probably do it until they're dead, you know? I don't know what it is about myself, and probably yourself too, that is like, I did this thing, I made money, I want to change. Okay, I'm going to change. I did this thing. Well, that was a little harder to make money doing that thing. Well, let's try and do something else. I did this thing. Oh, I made money again, but it was something a little bit different. And it's like, I have to keep myself interested. It's all in the genre of music, but there's so many different vibes of it. You know, it's like, oh, I want to have a song on a big DJ feature. And then when that happened with Kygo, it was like, well, that was cool. Didn't expect it to be during, you know, all the craziness.
Right.
So I couldn't play any shows with them, but I'm
was
like.
Was that during COVID era, 2020?
Yeah, that was.
Oh,
and
shit.
it was really weird. It was a weird feeling because it was like, oh man, this really cool thing's happening. I'm on this record with Ryan Tedder and all the, you know,
You hear that, Ryan Tedder?
you know, and all sorts of other people, like, I mean, like top people. And I'm going like, oh man, I'm like imagining in my head if we were doing a tour and I got to hang out with all these people that are on this record, you know, singing these songs with Kygo every night, like that would be so cool, you know. But it didn't happen like that. And I've found with most things, you know, when you're chasing after something and you get it, it's not what you think it is, or the situation shifts a bit to be not exactly it. And going back to what you're talking about, where it's like, I think you start asking a lot of deeper questions once you pass survival, and then you pass a bit of like future planning, and then you get to this point where you're like, I got to a point where I was like, okay, my family's taken care of. What do I want to do? You know, like who am I even? You know, I've taken this art that I've done, and it's still a part of me, but I've taken this one part of me and overemphasized it because it was doing really well, you know, and well, what about all the other parts of me that I've totally shut off, including live, you know, including stuff with guitar, including, you know, and that was kind of diving into this latest record that I did. And it was more about like, I want to play some shows, and I want to play guitar, and I want to say controversial things, and I want to kind of just be myself. Like people, I think the weirdest thing is people would hang out with me. They listen to my music and they'd hang out with me, and they wouldn't get me, you know, they would get this caricature of me, this like epic, mysterious, dark thing that they thought they were going to be hanging out with when we hung out. But then they got me, which is not that at all. A little, I mean, I'm acting goofy, I'm cracking jokes, I'm trying to make everybody laugh and being an idiot and saying stupid things and, you know, non-PC. Cool, like I'm just goofy, and people would, like, when I act goofy, people look at me like, what the heck? And I realize, oh, you don't really know me. Dang, this is weird, you know?
Because you're putting out, and it's weird in like internet world anyway, and so much of your whole musical world since 2017 is internet.
Yeah, I'm an internet boy.
Dude, I have so much respect for you because like that is something that not most people would like. You're like, time for me.
Yeah.
Like what happened that made you be like why did you shut down? I'm not going to play shows. Like, I'm not going to even try. I'm not going to, like, during that time, I'm going to keep feeding this because I'm supposed to, because something's finally working. And it would be disrespectful to not feed it or something.
I think there was a bit of that, like, man, people are finally liking what I'm doing after so many years of chasing things. They like my voice in this setting. There's actual fans, people saying nice things about me in music and my writing, and well, maybe this is the sweet spot. It's not me. It's just not the full me. I'm giving them a little sliver, and they like this sliver. You know, it's kind of like when you date somebody and you're dressed up and you're not doing all the obnoxious things, you know, that are horrible about yourself. You're just giving them a tiny little bit, and you're like, I know they're going to love this. Like, I'm going to wear those pants. I'm going to wear that shirt that I know people like. I'm going to say the things that I know will, like, you know, do the thing. And it's fun to be loved. It's nice to be loved. It's nice to be adored, to someone to say nice things about you and to point out the things that are great about you. And in a date scenario, when you have a few dates, you can really keep that up. But
Totally.
after time moves on, you can only keep that up for so long, and they start to see some of the other stuff that maybe you were kind of keeping from them. And not that that's where it was getting, but I was starting to feel a little inauthentic in not sharing the full picture of me, you know?
Right. You don't want to be a caricature of a thing.
Yeah. I don't mind it, but when it's my name, when it's Sam Tinnesz, and
Yeah.
that's what my artist stuff is under, it's not like, you know, with a Ruel or a Flurry or even a Zayd Wolf or, you know, something like that. They're these character names, and they become those things, I would think, you know, embodiments of whatever those names mean to them and in that moment. And for me, it's just my name. So I'm like, you know,
That's
so
fun,
people
yeah.
think, oh,
I
Sam
totally get
Tinnesz,
it.
like dark, epic, or empowered, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I got to like 2020 when things were just not great. And I was like, I'm not feeling empowered. I'm not feeling like I want to write about dark stuff. The world is too dark for this. I don't know what I want to do, you know?
Did you even want to? Were you writing a bit like alone, or
I
were you
was
doing,
writing
like,
a bit
Zoomies,
more out
Zoom
of
stuff?
fear, though. More out of like, well, if this is the way the world's going to be from here on, I got to figure out how to record my own vocals.
I got to
and-
keep the machine like
yeah, I got to
on
keep the machine going. I
tracks.
got to learn how to write songs with my favorite people. So I was writing songs with Matt Brownlee and a few other people over Zoom, and like, okay, I can do this, and recording the vocal and sending it, getting
Yeah.
back and being like, okay, we could do it like this. I wouldn't have to be with them in the room, but inside I'm dying because half of my favorite thing is being in the room with people and
Yeah.
hanging out. And I'm like, God, please don't let this be the next era of life and music. And thankfully it wasn't. But in that moment, I was thinking like, I can't do this, you know. And you start thinking about like, well, what else am I gonna do, you know? Like I got to survive. You know. And I think in that moment, you know, up to that moment, it was the whole American dream of like, do things to such an extent that more, bigger, bigger, more. And then once I got to that moment in 2020 or 2019, I was like, God, could you just let me keep what I have? Like, I'm actually really thankful for this.
Dude,
and I
that's what
feel
I
like
was
I might
thinking.
lose all of this in this moment. Like, I'm like, the deal with between, like, okay, God, if you get me through this, I'll just be happy with what I have for a little while. I won't be such a
Oh
pain.
my gosh,
You know?
that's exactly how I would describe moments that I felt in my life, specifically through that era too. There were that's when I decided like, oh, let's start a family, like let's have a baby, because it's like you're so up close with like mortality.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, okay, I swear, just let nothing change. I will live in this house for the rest of my
I will
fucking
be so
life.
pumped. It's just
Like-
just don't take the house from me. Like
Don't
I
take
actually
the-
no, I do like where I live.
I love it. And like we're all healthy. Like
Yeah.
please don't mess anything up. Like I
Yeah.
don't ever need to fly private. Like I'm sorry that I ever wrote that in my notes one time in my manifestation. Like
I'm sorry trying to manifest like a house
Grammy,
in LA
like-
and New York and London. I didn't really mean it.
I don't need it. I don't need it. That's exactly. I remember thinking that too.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? You grew up in. Why am I thinking?
Well,
Kentucky?
so I was an Air Force kid, so I moved around a lot. Like I was
Okay,
born in
that's
Grand
right.
Forks, North Dakota, and then we moved to like Sacramento, California. That's kind of where I learned to walk and talk and all that stuff. And then we moved down to Florida for a while, like St. Augustine, Florida, West Palm Beach, Florida, and all those different places. And then from there, we moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where I kind of like the music thing really was budding for me. There was, you know, people like Butch Walker and Collective Soul and what his band, at least, Marvelous 3, you know, Butch Walker, and then Collective Soul, and then there was, you know, hip hop artists like, you know, like Outkast, and there was just like a thriving music scene in hip hop and rock, and I was like, I want to be a part of this in some way. You know, I was too young to really hop in on their era of it.
But it was like it was around.
It was around, and it was intoxicating. It was like, how are they doing this? How are they making these songs? How are they performing like that on stage? They're just standing there and they look like rock stars.
This was like high school era for you?
Yeah, high school era. And it was, you know, it was confusing because I was like, I'm sitting there with the guitar. I'm like, I have the same thing they have. There's 6 strings on my guitar. There's 6 strings on their guitar. There's only so many notes and only so many words in the English language. And I'm like, how are they doing this? You know?
How'd you get your guitar?
My back in the day when I lived in Florida, my parents bought me this Strat pack, which was basically
Dude,
like
I know those.
was
Strat
basically
packs.
like a a Stratocaster, Squire one, and then like a little tiny speaker in a case, but it had a headphone jack, so I could plug in my headphones and play it really loud. My parents wouldn't freak out about it.
Came with a strap.
It did. Totally came with a strap. I'm sure it came with some picks.
Cheap capo.
Definitely a cheap capo.
Shitty picks.
And I would learn like Metallica songs and like all the riff rocky kind of stuff that was out at that time.
Dude, I have to interrupt to tell you something.
What?
Okay, your buddy Nick Wheeler is coming on the pod.
Oh, sick.
And the pod, I'm like a bro now. The pod, but I had texted my best friend, my like childhood best friend, being like, "Hey, because you said if you would learn with like Metallica songs, I would learn with All American Rejects, Vanessa Carlton, Michelle Branch,
yes,
and like a lot of Bob Marley and like a lot of Taylor Swift and specifically All American Rejects, and like a couple like Newfound Glory era kind of songs. But like that's how I learned. Anyway, she was like, I taped them up onto my wall, like onto my like sliding glass like wall, like those old like what the fuck, a closet, like a closet with like a mirror on it, and I would tape it up because I didn't have like a mic, like a music stand or anything. So she was like, you have to ask him, you have to tell him. She remembered this like core childhood memory that I totally forgot about, and she was like, are you gonna tell him about I forgot what the song title was. Like, are you going to tell him that you used to like learn guitar by practicing to like a taped up, printed out version of like whatever the song was? And it's like so.
Oh dang!
I had this like cool moment of being like, that's crazy. Like you're saying like Butch Walker, like people, like someone who like in high school was like around you and obviously was like a part of your palette of influence, subconsciously, consciously, whatever. And he lives here and he's someone that have you written with him?
No, I mean,
Butch Walker, this is your invitation to write with Sam.
Poor Butch. I feel like I've been after write with Butch for so long. It's mostly because of the massive respect I have for the dude. I mean, I think he is one of the last living rock stars of music that I listen to. I mean, Nick is a rock star, absolutely, and working with him was amazing too. But something about when you were in Atlanta and he was just like. To that scene, he was kind of everything. He produced the coolest stuff for like Seven Dust and for this other band that I loved called Injected that was there that had big rock riffs. And I just remember every time he would touch something, it would just sound better, And that's just like not many people can do that without leaving their mark. And I think that's something that I always took away from watching Butch produce and write. Other people was like, he didn't just be like, oh, hold on, I've got this fingerprint all over it. He let the artists be themselves while being like, oh, add a few harmonies here, add this guitar part, or okay, I'll play this solo. Or I don't know exactly what he did, but every time he touched people's music, it got better. And I wanted to be that that exclamation point on people's musics when I got involved.
Cool. Yeah.
So. Poor Butch. I feel like I've been chasing him down, but he does live in town. I see him all the time, in Franklin, over by where I live, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, Butch. I like your music. Okay,
it'll happen. Like not, it's like
it will
in
the
right context. It'll happen like naturally.
I trust God's timing because the last thing I want to do is be in a room with Butch and say just the dumbest stuff and write the crappiest song. It'll be when we're on a project that makes so much sense.
That's like the bet. There's nothing like worse. I've rushed things like that
exactly.
in the past. Not with someone like that iconic. You know what I mean? But like at the time, to me, they were like, and I like rushed it, and it was not in the right context, and like I might have like I don't know, like maybe. Like nothing ever came of it. You know what I mean? Like no friendship came of it. No.
Yep.
And if there's anything I've learned in life, it's that like the context in which you meet someone or just being along on your path and like letting it happen. It'll just.
It's funny because there was even a writer
feeling.
an artist this last week that we were supposed to get together like years ago and it didn't happen. Morgan, do you know that artist Morgan with
Wallen?
the X over the A, the X over the A. He's like an alt artist, has an amazing voice, and I I was supposed to write with him, and then he wasn't actually in town. And then we just kind of kept passing each other. And then we finally got together this last week. And it was funny because he looked at me and he was just like, I feel like this moment right now was the perfect time for us to get together. He's like, this song, he's like, everything I've learned, probably everything you guys have been learning. And it was the perfect moment. And you have to kind of trust that a bit. I always want to rush seasons. Me and my wife tease each other because we're always like, okay, I've got it. We want this house. This next step is to this house or this thing or this place or this season of life. And we always rush it by at least a year. It's always that like, and then we try to push and push and push for it in this season to have that thing. And there's always a block. And we're like, oh, okay, that's not for right now. You know? Right. I think sometimes collaborations, writing, artists, whatever, it's not for right now. It's for a future you know?
Totally.
You have to be okay with it. I have to be okay with it, that it's not for me right now because maybe the person I am now is not the person they need in that moment, you know?
Yeah, as painful.
As painful
as sitting there. Do you watch the show Dave?
No.
Do you know Lil Dicky?
Yeah.
Okay, he has a show called Dave.
Okay.
He has crazy features on it of like people like Rick Rubin's on an episode. Yeah. It's awesome.
Sick.
And he, I don't want to give it away, the finale of the last season, but like of the most recent season. But it's basically like, it's funny. He has a fan. I won't give the details away, but like he has a fan that's basically like comes to a show and is like, we're meant to meet. I swear. Like I know you. Like I know you through your music. Like we're meant to be. Like I'm equal. Like we're equals. Like we're good. Like I promise you this isn't weird. Like we need. Yeah. And it's funny because he has an artist who's like that in his world. Who he's like, I'm like you, and he's like tweeting at him constantly, like huge rapper. And you just kind of can't do that. You like have to sit and wait, even if you know deep down.
Yep.
Like we're cut from the same cloth.
Yep.
You have to sit back and wait for it to happen. And it is like, that is like a maturity thing. That is like a doing it, shooting yourself in the foot before you're like, I'm never going to do it again. But it's a hard lesson to learn for sure.
I think about too, like lately I've had the pleasure of working with some people I used to listen to when I was younger. And one of them being Richard Patrick from Filter. And Filter had that huge song, you know, Take a Picture. And then they had, you know, Hey Man, Nice Shot, and all these songs. And, you know, what I found out was like when he was doing those songs back then, like when I loved their music and loved his stuff, if I would have met him then, he was going through alcohol addiction, drug addiction, all these things. His headspace was probably more like, I'm amazing, I'm the best, I'm badass, you know? And I don't know if we would have gotten along. I mean, not to mention I was probably a kid.
You were like a tween. Like...
But if we were buddies and we were the same age, we probably wouldn't have gelled because our vibes wouldn't have matched. But I met him a few years ago in a season where he has kids, he's a dad, he's a husband, and he's just a better person, honestly. And
you're seasoned.
And I had the skills to like make music with him. And so we made some music and it was like an amazing experience. I was able to like write with somebody that I learned from as a kid and was influenced by, and it was in a moment where I could actually do it, where I could bring something to the table. I had something to offer. And we actually like wrote a song that ended up being their like rock single that's at radio while he's on tour with, you know, Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper. And I'm going to get to go and see that show with.
What's the name of the song?
The song's called Obliteration.
It's already out?
Yeah. And
we'll put a graphic right here.
Okay. Obliteration right there.
Okay.
And
that's
awesome,
I mean,
you know, it's like I got to work with him and then these two guys, Mark and Ian, who did all the Bishop Briggs stuff, the early stuff for her, and a bunch of stuff for Dorothy, and also people that I was like, man, they are blazing a path. And I met them also in an interesting season, you know, and where, you know, people felt a certain way about them, but I'm like, I met them and they were so kind, so sweet, very humble. And I had to wonder if that experience of what they had gone through in life brought them to this place where when I met them, they were better. They were better people. As painful and as horrible as whatever they went through before I met them, same for Richard. As painful and as horrible as the situations were before I met him, this person I was meeting was a better version. So it's almost like God allowed that time to be in the middle. So when we finally all met, we were in this really good place, and everybody was a better version of themselves, and we could make the beautiful music we were supposed to, you know?
Yeah. Patience.
But oh gosh, I mean, how many years was that between being influenced and in love with Filter and then finally meeting him and making music? I mean, 20 years? I don't know, but a long time, you know?
Right.
So
like it's hard. That's what my wife says. It's better to do it right than right now. Like that's how the whole. How long have you and your wife been together?
20 or why I say 20 years? 15 years. We just celebrated 15.
You just got
I'm
back
rushing
from,
it. Yes.
Paris? Were you in Paris?
Yeah, from Paris.
Paris.
Patty.
That's amazing. That's so
Man,
romantic.
I loved it. It was so nice. The food was amazing, all that stuff. But people need to wear deodorant. I don't understand.
Stinky.
I don't understand it. It's a cultural thing. Like they don't. The smell.
I don't love that though. I
don't
love
either.
it. I'm a hippie. Trust me. But like, nah.
No, I'm like, listen. I literally could solve probably most problems in Paris, and it's just. You know, like just a few rolls. Everybody's just gonna be nicer to you because you smell better. I don't know. I mean, I'm generalizing, but there were some moments where I'd walk into a closed-in space and I'd be like, I looked at my wife and she's like, I know. It's just cultural. It doesn't, you know. And I'm just like,
wow,
this,
that intense.
This smells.
Was it your first time that you guys went? Cool.
I'm sure though there are things about Americans like there were some moments
we're
where,
rude. We're stupid.
Oh my gosh, we are so rude.
Oh my
so
God.
stupid. I mean, they're like, yeah, we may be stinky, but y'all are rude and stupid. So I don't know what's worse. You know what I mean? Like there were some moments too. I'd get something to go, and then we would sit down and start eating it and drinking it. And they'd walk over and hand us a glass and a whatever to put it on. They're like, you can't do that. And I was just looking, going, well, why not? You know, but there's certain decorum still that they, you know, they just have a I don't know. Everything looks like a palace though. Everything has history. It's beautiful. The food is amazing. The people were actually really sweet. I was expecting like rude people. No one was rude to us. Not a single one.
That's nice.
Which was really wild. But anyways.
It was romantic?
It was very romantic, for sure. And we, 15 years in, 3 kids later, you need some romance to like kind of find its way out of the grave, like. And it's funny because like the first few days, after the first few days, she was like, "Are you trying to annoy me?" And I was like, "Annoy you? I'm not trying to annoy. I'm trying to make you laugh. I'm trying to like loosen you up. I'm trying to like help you have a good time." And she's like, "Oh," I think once she realized I wasn't trying to annoy her, like that I was trying to make her, like she's like, something clicked and went, "Bing, party mode,"
Oh, he's being fun.
It's like, oh, fun. I forgot what that's like,
Is this like the phase where, do you feel like you're, because I'm like a new parent only like of 2 years, but like, do you feel like you guys are coming out of the phase of, like you're on the other end of being able to like find each other again, like being just you two most of the, like at least some of the time, Yeah,
I mean, I think we're getting there. I think, we still have a little dude who's 3. I think once he's into the 4 or 5s and he's like, everybody's going to school and we have more
he's
like.
So cute. I saw his haircut.
Oh my gosh, his haircut. I'm like,
so
little
cute.
Man. But, and it's all so cute, but you take pieces of yourself and of things and you're giving them over to the kids and it doesn't leave a lot for each other. And so to take a whole week and go to Paris and like be like, hey, like all week long, like I'm here, I'm yours, whatever, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to talk about, wherever you want to eat, like nobody else except for us making these decisions. It was really kind of cool in that moment. But it takes a little bit of settling in. That's why I'm glad we had 7 days because 3 days into it, then she was finally like, okay, party mode activated,
That's awesome.
And it was cool. But
do you guys carve time like during the week?
Yeah, we definitely try to take like every Saturday night we go out for dinner or something.
Cool.
But it's funny because sometimes some weeks it's the only time we have conversation without like these little tiny people just interjecting all their thoughts,
Totally.
Or listening to everything we're saying. And our 10-year-old, almost 10-year-old, she just loves to know things, and then she'll say it later in front of somebody. And I'm like, don't say that, please.
It's so wild because I was just thinking about it, like we're starting to like not edit ourselves because we want to be ourselves, but it actually you start to check yourself.
Oh
like,
yeah.
what is how do I wouldn't say that type of like I wouldn't speak to myself. my daughter that way, so I would
Yeah.
speak to this person that way, or I would speak to myself that way out loud, or whatever the situation may be. But that's for a 2-year-old. So I'm trying to picture like a 2-year-old in the room who's like repeating herself over and over and over again of like, I want to watch blah blah blah, I want to watch blah blah blah, I want to watch, and then also having like a 10-year-old who's at like a different intellectually like developed level who can understand, and then like a middle. How old is your younger?
6. I mean, you realize like the 6-year-old doesn't pick up on the layers. Like it's like you start to realize I'll say something and it's layered, and you have to dig a little bit to get the true meaning. My 10-year-old, she knows how to dig for it, and she's like, Daddy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, gosh, you picked up on that? I was just like, funny. I can't even say this. I can't even shroud what I'm trying to say and, like, hide it. It's like she is very smart. I mean, really, I always tease, like, I am a feminist at heart. And I say that in a way of, like, not because of my daughters, not because of my wife, or growing up with my mom as a single mom. I just think that everybody should be equal, period. I'm like, this whole idea that there is inequality is really weird, and my brain does not understand.
I love that this was like your moment to just like speak on it. Femininity.
I'm just saying.
Not feminism.
Feminism.
Speak on it. Sam T for feminism.
I'm just saying. That's how I feel about it. It has nothing to do with anything else. But I tease my wife. I'm like, I understand now why men have been trying to hold women down, because these women come out with crazy emotional intelligence. They're understanding on things like at an early age. And I'm like, that is ultra threatening.
Like, prefrontal cortex is highly developed.
It's wild.
Like way before the boys.
Like these girls, they're like saying stuff and thinking stuff. I'm like, I was picking my nose and eating my boogers. Like that's where I was at. And these girls are legit like putting together like really complex thoughts and deciphering my coded, what I'm saying. They're digging deep into what. Yes. So I'm just like, I say all that to say like, I get why these men for so many years have been trying to be like, no, shh. Because it is. I mean,
why does anyone push anyone down? Because they're
threatened. Yeah,
100%. Like it's anything. So, it's like in this case that happens to be the. Yeah. So have they listened to like all your new songs? Because your older songs are more like there can be they're PG, they're fine, but like your new album, like you're singing about like it's fun and pop punk, and it's not pop. It's like rock, and it's pop rock. And it's
there's edge to it for sure.
But it's like cheeky too. You're not actually like this. You're not actually like sex, drugs, rock and roll, like doing meth. Like we know you're like out with your kids, like you. Yeah. And you have you have this music in you, and you're not actually singing about drugs because you're making social commentary, and it's all really cheeky, and it's all still coming from like a really authentic place. But like they might not get that. Yet. Like, I don't know. Are
even there was like some parts of myself that I feel like I've hidden from my kids that like some of those songs touched on. Even like the Prozac Perfect song. It's like, smiling on the outside but dying on the inside. The idea of like depression and anxiety and all that stuff. It's hard to have those conversations with your kids when you're, like in the morning when I'm waking up and I take, my medicine that I do for mental health. Like I take some Lexapro and, no shame in it anymore. I used to have so much shame about it. But it's like at this point in life, I'm really thankful that some of those things exist to help me get through the trauma of losing my dad and all these things that I've been through. And I don't have a time to explain that to a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old really. Yeah. So like when they ask like, oh, what are you taking? I'm like, oh, allergy medicine, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to lie. I'm just trying not to have this deep, long conversation. I know they're going to be like, well, why? Well, what? Well, how? And I'm like, I don't have time. I got to get ready in this morning and get through this thing. But some of these songs touch on some of that. And my oldest picked up on some of it, and she was kind of like, I could tell she was like listening to the lyrics and being like, oh, like daddy has some like rougher feelings and, and maybe deals with some of these things. And even my, hearing my littlest little dude, he doesn't know what a lot of stuff means, but him singing back like, sometimes people suck, sometimes, and my wife's like, don't say suck. He goes, sometimes people stink. Like we're like editing it so that he can, so he can sing it in school or whatever. So and cute. It is really weird. A lot of my music up to this point has been very safe, like ultra safe. And I did get some backlash from some very conservative friends who were like, I put out the song and they'd be like, this is not you, this is not God, this is not this, this is not that. And I'm like, wait, when did I ever say any of my music was any of this? You know, I'm like,
Sure.
I'm literally expressing what I've been going through, commentary on life and people around me. And some of it is like commentary of like really like horrible religiousness that I don't love, you know, and like greediness and, you know, judgmental vibes and all that stuff. It touches on a lot of that. And really too, like a lot of the songs were reflecting on a past self, you know, of who I used to be in college and in high school, you know, and it's not the same person who I am now, but I never really during that time wrote about it much. You know, I don't know if I felt like I had permission to, but something just was like, you need to write about it now. And even reflecting on, you know, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with it. All to say that, like, it is really weird having kids singing some of these songs back because they're not PG. They're not safe. They're not. But at the same time, I didn't say anything I don't mean.
Sure.
And I didn't use any, like, cuss words that were not inappropriate uses. Like, I didn't just throw it out there to be like, F this, F that.
Just
because I wanted to be cool. None of it was to be cool. It was to emphasize an emotion. And I don't know where we're going to get with that. Like when we get older, like, am I going to let my kids cuss? Am I not going to let my kids cuss? But I do think my mom she's very conservative and doesn't cuss a lot, but she gives me space to express my emotions however they come out.
She accepts you how
she
you
accepts
come.
me how I express myself.
Beautiful.
So if I just say the F word and, you know, which I don't often say around people I don't feel comfortable around, if I'm not comfortable with you, it probably won't come out. But if I'm really comfortable with you, sometimes I'm really passionate and I just throw it out there, and it's not to like be cool. It's just I'm like, I don't have another word that's any more passionate than this word, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, that stuff is not like, it's to express an even more intense emotion.
I mean, I think it's a beautiful, I hear everything you're like riffing on and everything you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think that it's kind of an amazing thing that your kids are going to have. Because I think about that too, like Lou is going to hear like stuff that like, yeah, she'll hear like rah rah, like I'm never coming down, or like, you know, she's going to hear all the other stuff, like keep it moving and whatnot. But she's also going to hear like, can I get a night off, my mind off from the dark places it go. Like she's going to hear just fucking let me love you. She's going to hear me kind of being like it's almost like I can put those things in that place. I can be super aggressive. That's why I love working on other projects too, because I can put like, I can be British if I want to sing British. I can be like really aggressive and like snarky in my delivery if I want to, and get that out of me, because it's probably it's there somewhere. And I think, I don't know, I don't want to be like a caricature of a parent. Of like, oh, this is what the idea of a parent is. It's like how I want to be myself. But her parent. But I also want her to see me. But a lot of that is going to be like stuff that perhaps most parents maybe don't like share, or at least not that early on. That's just like exposed to the world in that kind of a way. So
it is a weird.
I do think about that too.
It's like what do you call it? Like a high wire of like, I want to keep their innocence. I don't want to be fake around them. I want to keep their innocence. I don't want to be fake. And I'm like balancing this thing, and like there is a bit of like, they know like, okay, daddy's inappropriate. You know, if I say something funny, and then they know there's a little bit of unhinged to me. And they know that. They know I'm safe. They know that I love them and that I will always take care of them to the extreme and protect them. But they also know that I say crazy things sometimes because I'm a little bit in my feels or whatever it is. And while their mommy is a little bit more like logical, reserved, more even keel, I can just be a little crazier. And
you like equip them with the emotional intelligence to be able to like then realize, oh, like our dad's just being like he's just
doing
his
little
thing.
crazy. Like I don't need to mimic this thing that he's doing.
That's just him.
That's a little wild. That's just his personality, and I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Like I think it's funny because I think girls understand that a little bit sooner. I'm probably gonna have to get my act together as a little dude grows up because he's gonna literally probably model everything I'm doing. So I'm glad that this season I'm going through is a growth season because I know that hopefully I'm growing into the better person, better man that I'm supposed to be, and that will hopefully in turn help him be a better man in society and interacting with people. But it's funny because I think the girls are like, oh yeah, that's a little nuts, like or whatever, or he's inappropriate. Daddy said the blah 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 word, mommy.
Is that what they say? He's inappropriate.
Oh, yeah, daddy's inappropriate. Oh, daddy, and they roll their eyes, and I like that because they understand that like, no, you're not supposed to do that. I did say something dumb, or I made an inappropriate joke, or I mimicked an accent that is probably not PC or whatever. Yeah. They're like, Dad, you can't do that. I think they're going to be doing that until they're in their teenage years. But my friends even do that. I was hanging out with Mickey Echo, who's like amazing artist, amazing writer, and I did a voice, and he just kind of put his hand over his mouth.
In public? You did it in public?
Well, not in public, just me, him, and somebody in the room. It was just, because I'm like, I make fun of everybody. I make fun of everything. I'm like a comedian in my heart. My other life was I was a comedian, but I did something and he was like, you can't do that. Like he whispered, he's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, Mickey, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, I'm safe.
But then I understood he was saying, hey, boundary line, you crossed it, don't do that again, And as a friend, I respect that, but I still think it was funny and I still think that he laughed, and there's a part of me that will do pretty much anything to make somebody laugh.
Dude, I think about that lately, especially now that I'm in my 30s, about not really wanting to edit myself anymore. I do stuff like that too sometimes in social situations. I did it the other day. Yeah. And it's I think for the people around me sometimes it's horrified. Even
I can't believe you just said that or did that.
Even if it's not inappropriate, even if it's as benign as I found a softball card from when I was a kid. Did I show you this?
No.
Okay, I can show everybody. It's funny. My dad joke, but it's my baseball card from when I was 7. Yeah, and it's my stats, and it's my picture, and
Shut up! Oh my gosh,
a mushroom
that's
cut, and a little boy, and it's my team uniform, and it literally is a baseball card.
Oh my gosh!
So when I'm out, when Robin and I are out, I'm with friends or whatever, and a bartender asks me for my ID, I hand that to them.
Shut up! I don't know this.
As
this is so
a
funny.
bit, and I'm to me, the pitch is always worth it. I'm always gonna try because it might wind up working out in my favor.
Pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the failure either comes via the people around me and not hyping me up and just being really embarrassed and me being why do you care? This is funny.
Yeah.
Or the bartender just not having the time of day.
Oh gosh.
And being but it's usually I think that stuff's always worth it. And lately I'm going for it more and more and more, and just being you just gotta be yourself.
You do. You gotta be yourself. And it's funny because when I hang out with someone like a Richard, who's an older guy who's been through so much stuff, it's he's oh yeah, lead singers are mimics. You just mimic everything. And I'm
yeah.
I didn't always identify as the lead singer guy, but I know what he's saying. Even as a singer, you're mimicking stylizations, you're mimicking ad libs, you're watching your heroes and you're choosing things that they're doing, but you kind of make them your own. But it doesn't stop there. It just keeps going with everything. And I find myself mimicking accents or mimicking, whether it's British or whatever it is, I end up mimicking all these things. And I don't always see the lines of appropriate or inappropriate. It's the worst. My management with this last album, they're so your goals for this album are X amount of streams and these playlists and Billboard or whatever else and getting canceled. And I'm getting canceled. They're I just think you're gonna get in trouble. I'm for what? Then they start naming things. And I was oh, you're not wrong. I'm it's harmless canceling. It's not the kind of canceling you typically think of, but harmless to me, but probably to other people, they'd take it real seriously. If they took it seriously, I could see them getting upset.
For so many, yeah. I mean, I could totally see it.
Yeah.
I could yeah.
Like
I've said
I did a
things on
bit.
this.
I did a bit where
Do
I
it,
went
do it, do it.
downtown. I went downtown and I held a sign and I said the Britney challenge and it said shave your head for
I saw that.
whatever. People were threatening my life. They were so mad. They were like, "Don't you know that Britney was going through hell in that moment?" I'm like, yes, and I've seen interviews where she literally was like, I shaved my head to try to get people to stop taking pictures of me, like in video. And I'm like, the whole thing in that song was like, maybe I should just shave my head like Britney, you know, screaming out, "Hit me in the face." Like it's like this whole thing about like, I am so sick of people. Like, I want them to get away from me. So like I was like, Britney challenge, this makes so much sense. And people were having fun with it in the sense of like, well, I would shave my head for $1 million. I'd shave my head for this. And it was just fun interacting with people. And some people did shave their head for money. But I had to stop doing it because I was getting death threats. I was getting all sorts of stuff. People were so upset about it. And I was like, guys, y'all, come on.
Was it from Nashville people or was it
No,
from
it was
people
like
on the internet?
People on the internet, trolls, you know. The trolls were like,
Trolls be trolling.
Yeah, they're
You're
like,
doing something right.
off with his head.
You're using like the mechanism to your benefit.
And it got a lot of eyes, but it just got so many people hating.
weird.
And they're like, your forehead's big. You're, you know, or like they'd find all these things about you. Like the trolls come out and they're like, just try to find your most insecure things. They're like, your forehead's gigantic. I'm like, it's been gigantic my whole life. I'm
Is
like,
it big? Can we see
it's
it?
just like a big forehead, you know? It's just
I
like
don't think... Sam, I love your hair. Why don't you show it ever?
I mean, I have been a little bit more.
It's really lovely.
Thank you.
It's shiny.
It's got a lot of sheen to it, you know?
Sam, you look like if you existed in like Titanic times.
Yeah.
And you were wearing like a
A suit, yeah.
with like a bow tie.
It would shine with the bow tie.
And then you'd have your hair like combed over like tight, like
Listen,
gelled
that
with
would
the
happen.
red.
That's what I would do. Like maybe get like a
Zaddy of Titanic.
Listen, I would zatify. I would be so
Zatify
zatified.
the Titanic.
You know what's funny is that me and my friend Mark Sibilia, who's like a songwriter, artist guy, we always call each other Zaddy. If we post something that we like that each one of us likes, I'll go. I try to be the first one and be like Zaddy and put like a flame or
That's
something.
really funny. He is a Zaddy though.
Absolute Zaddy.
I don't know him personally, but he's
Italian
really good.
stallion, you know, in all the ways, you know, and we just try to encourage each other because men don't tell each other enough, like how, like, you're attractive, you're amazing, you know.
You both are like younger dad. You're both
Younger dads.
actual dads.
I know. We both, you know, been married for a long time to our, you know, people that we really love and we're faithful to and we love our kids but we also want to be artists and, you know, those things didn't always live together, you know.
Dude.
Now you can be like a full-on artist but still be faithful to your wife and be faithful to your kids and have a full-on life and not have to abandon everybody to pursue the music thing. I think it's so honestly like faux pas now.
So
it's kind of
true.
like, dude, that's played out. Like even people, I don't say this to downplay anything, but like now when people die of overdoses, I have ultimate like, you know, I'm like, ugh, it guts me.
Yeah.
And then my second feeling is, how played out? Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, are we still doing this?
It's sad. It's sad, but to comment on like what you said earlier, it's kind of nice that you had your like grind and then when you did come into stability and then ability to plan and then did all the different levels.
Yep.
It wasn't out of control. Like I wasn't raised with like alcohol being that big of a deal. I mean, I probably should have because I like alcohol is kind of an issue in some family members. But like, it was like come from like a South American culture where it's like you want to try a beer, you could try. So when I was in high school and college, I didn't go crazy. I was like, eh. So like with that same kind of attitude. But I wonder if like, I don't know. And then it's got to be weird like being at a certain level where you like don't even really know who wants to be around, like who wants to be your friend, like
so dark.
The whole thing is kind of like you have roots, you're grounded.
Yeah, when you have
something.
roots and you're like when I do something crazy or I'm like, babe, I wrote with this whatever famous person, and she's like, oh, that's cool, hey, could you take out the trash? It keeps you grounded. You're like, oh, you're right. Okay, that was cool. Now I'm back home and I'm normal guy, dad guy,
Yes.
not hanging out with celebrity person. I got to get back to being a normal person. I don't live on that, on the mountain of the gods with Zeus and, whoever else.
Yeah.
I live down here with Hercules and everybody else,
Yeah, and then it's like that much rich, like not
It is.
rich in the like shallow way of using that word, but like
Yeah.
rich. Like life is richer in that way when
It
you have
is.
someone to like people to like do it. It's like this is the whole point.
Yeah.
This is the whole point.
Yeah, I mean,
it feels
I
like.
feel bad for the people who like do music, get ultra famous really young, have nobody who has loved them or cared for them other than their family from early on, and then the people that are supposed to be that, their dad or mom or whatever, like
Sorry.
they take advantage of them.
Sure.
Like the freaking what's her name? I'm thinking about someone specific, and it's even sad because the Rehab song, the
Amy Winehouse.
The Amy Winehouse story guts me because it's like, and even in her song, it's like, they're trying to get me to go to rehab, but daddy says I'm fine. And it's like the one person who should have looked at her and said, babe, like, let's get you some help. Let's stop this. Let's chill. He's like, oh, she's good. And even the song, she knew that her dad was like not doing his thing like he's supposed to do. Like daddy says I'm fine. If dad says I'm good, I'm good because dads look out for you. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think a lot of those people get in these situations. So I am thankful. There is a lot of like infrastructure that has happened to allow me to not get to that place. And it does, like, once you have these roots and you see what's actually valuable, you're like, yeah, like overdosing, like that's played out. Like I don't need to be numbing my pain or my whatever. I can go to my friends and say, hey, I'm really struggling, or your parents, or whatever, and say I'm dealing with something. Like help me through it. And you feel the emotion, you get it out, and you move on with your life. And hopefully that makes you better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
like having like infrastructure and roots. Yeah.
And that's a luxury too. I mean, it's probably a luxury for me to even say that it's played out. I mean, I do have the luxury of good family, good, good friends. And I think though that should be the goal. Like, I hope that, people like who find fame early, like some of the first things they do is go like, okay, who can I put around me in my camp who actually cares about me, who's my buds, who are my bros, like ride or die people. Like that's where I'm at now as things are succeeding. I thought that my circle was going to get bigger. I was just going to know more people and be friends with more people. And in some ways that's true, but in a lot of ways my circle just goes, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter because I realize the people who have my back.
Do you think that's also just like growing like with age too?
I think so too. Yeah.
Of there's like a recognition of like time fleeting and like the older you get, the quicker each second feels like it goes.
Yep.
And then especially when you have kids, that it feels like if I'm giving my time for something, it better be filling up my cup in some way.
Yep.
Like, and if it's filling it because of like ego or like because of some play that I'm trying to make, whatever it may be, or because of, or is it because I'm like genuinely going to enjoy this? Is it going to fill, like, is it going to support my family? Is it going to like fill up my soul? Is it like there's like a better guiding force because you're not, when you're tethered a little bit, you kind of like, you don't just fly away. Yeah. And like, I feel like that is been like a huge game changer and like, like a blessing in life to have is your family and your kids and your kid or whatever it may be, or something grounding you, like something grounding you and that kind of a thing. Like you don't blow away.
No. And I think it's so easy to blow away, like especially if it's a big thing. I mean, I think too, like sometimes I'm like, God, why did you let things happen later on in life for me and not earlier on? And then when something big happens and I don't take it to heart and I don't let it define me and I don't let it be my everything, I'm like, okay, like this actually is better. I can survive this. Like, doesn't matter how much success I have. Yeah. I don't even have the kind of success that someone like a Justin Bieber or whoever has to go through. Like, man, like as much as that seems like a blessing, it's actually a lot of that fame is kind of a curse, you know, and it's a curse in the sense that like they can't go anywhere that they want to go. They can't know who loves them, who truly doesn't love them. Probably families showing up out of the woodwork being like, hey, I'm your third cousin. Like, I need money. Like, and then when you don't give them money, you look like the jerk. And, you know, I'm sure and that's probably just the tip of the iceberg. There's tons of stuff that I would never even know about because I'm not in that situation. Totally. But I'm thankful that even the little amount of success that I've had, I can handle it.
Your circle gets.
Yeah. And my circle gets tight because I realize like, oh, and it's honestly, it's almost like now it's reactionary. Mm. Oh, this person and this person in this situation, when it was money or me, they chose money. Oh man, that sucks. I really like them. I really like that person, but I got to cut them off. I got to cut it off. It's not healthy for me. It's not safe. And then I'm just like, and I don't do it out of spice. I don't do it out of spite. I don't do it out of hatred. I don't do it out of unforgiveness. I do it out of like, okay, well, I thought we were this. We're not this thing, you know, good friends, looking out for each other. There are other people who are just as talented who will be that for me. And maybe I just need to look for those people. And I've found a lot of those people who, you know, were like, yeah, this deal is good for me on the money side, and you're trying to screw these people on this side. But actually, because you're doing this over here with my buddies, my brothers, it's not good for me. Sorry. Like, make it good for everybody, or it's not good for me. It's not good for anybody.
Do you feel like I don't know, with that small circle sort of thing, I've been like thinking about that lately too, is like all of my just like my therapist told me the other day, she's like, all of your friends don't have to be like other parents, by the way. She's like, a prerequisite for you having like a new friend doesn't mean, she's like, anybody could be a fucking parent. They're fucking crazy people that are parents. Like, just because someone's a parent doesn't mean you need to be their friend. Like, keep your friends like what they are.
So
but
true.
Like so in that same light, I've been thinking about it from like the music point of view of being like, maybe like it's okay if my circle isn't all other artists and writers and producers and blah blah blah, like as like my closest people, because I do feel like sometimes wires get crossed of like one, like just like in any friendship, you like of mixed expectations of thinking of what is like, is the relationship transactional, or is it like is this friendship, is this work, is this, and because of what we do and because we get together with people who we've literally met, that like the day one we're meeting people and like writing songs together, and sometimes bringing up things that we don't even tell people we're actually close with about in order to write a song. And so there is like a sense of almost like a summer camp friend feeling. You know what I mean?
True.
It's a familiarity, or someone from college where you're like, yeah, we were in freshman fucking blah, blah, blah together. And you're like, but kind of, I don't know, like, have you had to reacquaint yourself as you've gotten older for whatever reason with living in a music city, and what your relationships in your musical world versus your personal life versus your family life, what each of those mean? Like, have you had to reevaluate that?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I mean, I've moved further out of town, and part of that was on purpose, because I don't like being at places and running into business people and having to flip on the switch, and now I'm the guy. I'm like, yeah, man, let's get coffee. You know, and it's not that you have to do that, but it's almost like it happens. And so the more I can be outside of that sphere, to where I'm just out hanging with my wife and we're at dinner and nobody's approaching me that I know. It's just, we're just hanging out, having a drink or eating food. The more I can do that, the better I feel about.
Feel less stressed. Like
I feel less stressed. Yeah. So that way I go in the city, I do the city thing. I come out to the country, and we're just living, you know, around people who are, you know, writers, or, you know, they're race car driver, or they're, you know, decal makers, or they're painters, or they're, you know, just everybody has a cool job. It's not that their job's not cool. It's just not all music. And I really kind of like that. Yeah. Because, you know, it's like, I don't know. I honestly, it's funny. My neighbor behind me, He's like a painter, really nice guy, and I guess he had a business at one point, and sold the business and all this stuff. And when I met him, he's just a really calming presence, really sweet guy, and I could just tell he'd be a good person to work for if I was working for somebody in business. Anyways, all that to say, we're talking about stuff, and my other neighbor was like, "Well, that's Sam's song," and they're like, "The Legends Are Made song?" It's like, "Oh yeah, you wrote that." I'm like, "Yeah, I wrote that." And they're like, "Well, he also sings it too." And I'm like, "Oh gosh." They're like, "Yes, and I also sing it." And they're like, "No, you don't." And like they just did not believe me. And I'm like, "I know, I don't talk about it. It's not something that I bring up because I like us just being like because there's something about music or even acting or whatever it is. There's some sort of elevated thing above some other job sometimes, And I'm like, I show up and make a widget just like you do. I'm like, it's the same. In some ways, it's the same kind of thing, and I don't feel I don't feel myself higher than anybody else, and I try to keep it that way because that's where you get into trouble.
Totally. I mean, to some extent, that's why I like living near, in Nashville-ish, because it's so not a thing.
It's not a thing.
No one really cares, honestly. Nope. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
You're not othered.
No.
You're not interrogated at
Well, tell me how you sell a song.
Yeah, it's like, it's you don't have to do that dance, but you do have to do a different dance.
Yeah.
Or you do have to be like, I kind of like living where we live because similar reasons. It's not as far out as you, but like I'm like I can go out looking like dookies, and it's like I don't care because I'm not gonna like run into someone that I'm like,
yeah,
I can
like,
write with them one day, or like some cool producer that I want to go up to like an idiot or whatever. It's just like nobody gives a fuck. Like I'm like with the old people, my neighbors, and the this
old
one
people,
and that
neighbors
one.
Though are the best. Like for the most part, they're the best. Like when they're nice older couple or something like that, they like take care of their lawn. They like let you borrow stuff, and they're just
safe,
like always handing out advice, and you're like, that's actually good advice. You're like, you're not just some 20-year-old giving me some I know everything and this is horrible advice,
Nobody's like trying to be anywhere. Everyone's just like living. I'm just trying to like live my life, be with my family. That's why I never really I don't leave so much here,
Yeah.
What's next? What are you trying to I don't know. What are your intentions for this next phase? You have your album out. You're playing some shows coming up.
I'm kind of tapping back into like my high school, college self, because I did a lot of shows during that period of time in life, and I miss it. I miss traveling. But I'm doing it differently. Like when I was doing that, it was like almost there's a bit of desperation in it of like if we weren't doing shows, it didn't feel like we had any momentum and nobody knew about our music.
That's exactly how I felt. Yeah.
It's like you never say no to a show. You do every show and you wear yourself out and you just roll tour after tour after tour. It's like that's what I would do. But this season is opposite. If I get to a point where I'm not having fun, then I stop. And if there's some opportunity that comes in, like I had a friend's band offer like a whole tour that was like a ton of dates over a bunch of different months.
As a support or like a co-bill?
As like a support thing. And rightfully so. I mean, they crush it live. They've built that business. Like they own it and they sell out 3,000 people places, if not more.
Like a big
multiple
thing.
Nights, a big thing. And everything in me, if I was a single guy, didn't have to make money, I'd be like, let's go, But here I am, 3 kids. Those days are writing days as well. And I'm seeing things on my calendar during that time. I'm seeing family stuff. I'm seeing business stuff. And I'm like, oh, man, as much as I want to do this, I can't do it.
Dude, so like old you would have been like, I'll move.
Oh my gosh. I would have cleared heaven and earth just to make it happen. But this new me is like, I need to let them know, like, thank you, first off, for believing in me enough to want to bring me out on this. I now realize that is you saying, we love what you do, and damn, that feels good. That feels good. Thank you so much. Then the other side of it is like, I've got too much going on during this time. Is there any way I could do a part of it? And I know that's maybe not what's best for you, but if you did want me on this, here's the part I could do that makes the most sense, and it's close enough people to where like, dude, I get it. It's like, it's not a ton of money to do this thing that we're asking you to do, and it's a lot of dates away from your family, and and it's like we're all adults in this moment, and they don't take it personally because they know that I love them so
it's like
much.
work, it's personal business. It's
and
all
they're
the things.
like, listen, I totally get it, and it's like, if we are doing like splitting this up, we will let you know. And it felt like I realized in that moment I could say no to something and still maintain a great relationship, and still let them know how honored I was, and still let them know that, man, I actually would kill for some of these venues. Oh my God, you're playing some of my dream venues, and maybe it'll still come back around. You never know.
You'll be headlining it.
Oh gosh, maybe one day. But at the same time, it's like that is their life. They did that for 20 years or more. This band who asked me to come out, and it's like they cut their teeth to get there. I can't take shortcuts, I can't just like one day wake up and be like, I'm going to headline, It doesn't really work like that unless you have some massive hit song, like ultra hit. And even then, so-and-so who will not be named, it's like I know artists who have number one songs who were barely selling 200 tickets to their shows.
Yeah, because the live world is a different
beast. I'm like, here they are, number one top 40 pop song, and they have 30,000, Instagram followers, and it doesn't mean anything like it used to. When we were growing up, it was like somebody pop off like number one pop song. You're a massive star, you're massively rich, and you have tons of fans. It's just that's not the world we live in anymore. Yeah. It's more about the song. And anyways, all that to say,
you're just gonna go to like your target markets of like where people are like, come.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm going to do more live stuff. I really enjoy it. Like when I get chances to play in front of thousands of people, I don't take it for granted. I soak it in, and I try to make a moment out of it for myself and everyone in the crowd. I'm not as a perfectionist about it. I'm like, I hit that bunk. No, I don't care. Come up on stage and hang out with me. Okay, let's sing this song together. Like, you're pumped about it? Me too. Like, let's go. And I try to find those people in the crowd that help me feed that energy, and the back and forth. And it's cool to see different selections and different types of people resonating with different songs. It's cool. I mean, I love that. I'm kindling that fire in myself.
Cool.
But
that's beautiful.
If it ever gets to not be fun, I stop.
That's the rule.
That's the rule. I said that to my management, and they even remind me of the rule. They're like, "Oh, you really want to do this tour that has this? Like, I'm telling you, you're going to get to the middle of it. You're going to hate your life, and then not only will you be a pain in the ass to be around, you'll probably get them to not like you anymore, and you'll be a miserable human, and we'll be hearing about it." They're like, I don't think this is right for you, and I'm just like, you're right.
They're being like realistic. Well, that's good.
I'm being like, woo, like let's do it, and they're like, okay, this is how much money it would cost you. This is how many things you're going to be missing. Remember your family, like.
Dude, that's so nice that they're not like, take your money and like let it be used in this way, and this way, and this way, and this way, and this way.
I mean, in some ways, I'm more valuable to them being at home writing, but also I truly, that's one thing. It's like, I could team hop. I could find the biggest, baddest manager. I've had meetings with people who manage some of the biggest artists in the world. And the thing I keep coming back to is like, can I trust this person? Like I can trust my team. Do they have the best interests? Do we have similar belief system as, whatever that looks like for you? It's like, I think that's important. Your team needs to be on the same wavelength. So when you say, you know what, I can't do this thing, they're like, I understand. It's not like, no, you have to. These are all the reasons. And you don't see eye to eye on valuing family or valuing faith or valuing whatever it is. They may be like, well, money. And you're like, family, fun, passion,
Yeah.
And
totally.
Anyways, all that to say, I think those are really important things for a team, to have a team that understands that as like, so it's like, I haven't jumped ship because I think that when I can trust somebody, I can trust their intentions. I can trust them with my money. I mean, at one point in time, money was flowing through them because they just saw a need for me on business management side. And it's not smart to run your money through your management because that can turn into really bad things. But their character was there, and luckily, nothing bad happened. Like I could trust them, like I thought, and all that to say, like they always were taking on roles of things that I needed, and it's nice to have people like that,
I feel like anyone that is going to like ride for you and that's trustworthy is more valuable than the biggest name. Doesn't matter in anything, really.
Because at the end of the day, if you're not talented, someone can prop you up and make you look like the perfect opener for some big thing or the perfect whatever. But if you get on stage and you just suck, like
Yeah.
You
Or
know?
or you're a jerk, or you don't know how to. I think that's the biggest. Well, we could talk about this off the pod, but I think that's
Yeah.
my biggest struggle is like needing a team that literally knows more than I do
Oh, 100%.
at this stage in the
I
game.
know. It's hard.
Which is hard.
Because you meet
Because
people and you're like,
we're-
oh, you're green in this area. You
And I'm
you
like,
haven't
but
been doing
I'm
it as
not-
long as me.
I'm
you know?
not, dog. Like I'm. Yeah, and you're like,
Well,
I'm not.
it's funny because my
Yeah.
manager Dave, he was a part of. He literally, I'm sure everybody says this, but he literally found Haley from Paramore, like heard her voice and was like, "Holy cow, you're incredible!" Helped her put together the band, helped the band get
been with
signed,
him
and I've been with him
since-
for a long time since my first solo release stuff.
Yeah, I remember. Cause
So
I
at least
feel like,
7 years, if not more, maybe 8 years.
Cool.
And the thing I like about him is that he's older, wiser, has been in the business longer, has known everybody in different stages of life that like when they come back around, he's like, oh yeah, I knew them when we were doing blah, blah, blah record with so-and-so artist. And, you know, Paramore's not the only band he did. He did, you know, Family Force 5 and this other,
Cool.
you know, Christian band called 10th Avenue North that really blew up. And then he did all sorts of stuff. He did all these producers, Paul Moak, and he was like, you know, a part of a lot of these careers. So he's seen a lot. You know, Jason
He's with
Halpert.
Matt Braunlouis too.
Yeah,
right?
he's with Matt Braunlouis from the
That's right.
beginning, you know, which Matt has done massive stuff, you know, all genres. So he's known. So it's like he is not green. There's one thing I can say about him. He is not green, and that is the hardest thing to find. Someone who has that kind of just seasoned thing where you can be like, hey, I'm going through this. Like, what did you do during these seasons with these different people?
Yeah.
You know, what worked
But
and what
also
didn't.
like willing to see like all different angles of the person. Like you're a writer, you're a
Yep.
producer, you're an artist.
Yeah, he doesn't
know,
limit me. There's not a time where he's like, okay, you know, I don't know. There's not a time where he's like, you can't do that.
Okay, we might cut this, but
Yeah.
you can make me a if we were to make me a advert.
Yeah.
What do you call that? Like when you're like, call 1-800 blah blah, $20 off. Like a televised like thing.
Yeah, like a promo. You mean for you as like why you're awesome?
So pitch me to managers of the world.
Yeah.
And you're to like pitch me, and we're like, how would you sell me?
I would say multi-genre, multi-instrumentalist, self-contained singer, songwriter, artist, producer who can literally write and produce themselves 100%.
Stem cells? Stem cell research.
Stem cell
cells?
research.
Is that what you said? Stem cells?
No.
I'm a scientist too. Stem
And on top of that, knows how to write an artist song, but also knows how to work well in sync. And I think those are two really hard things to know how to do both. Some people are just sync or just, you know, artist.
That's what I found, I think, is the struggle, which is like either someone knows that world really well, or they're like artist only, touring only, like we need to get you an agent, or it's like, or if they know about that world, they know nothing about, you know, like how to work with my, you know, like how to communicate with my admin and my business management and my with my like all this things that go along with like owning your own publishing and doing all the writer side of things. So it's it takes someone really special that you trust to like see what you are and what you can be, because you also need like a coach. Like you also need, for those days where you're like, I didn't get the cut, didn't make a ton of money, I'm writing bad stuff, I'm blocked, whatever it is, someone to be like, yeah, we're good. Like here's where we're going. This is just this, you know, like you need like a coach.
I think too, like someone who allows you to wiggle a bit. It's like, I think for you too, it's like, you know, another selling point would be like, hey, like you could put me in the room with anybody.
Because I'm funny. Because I'm funny. You could literally put me in the room with anybody. I could get along with anybody.
And you'll get along with anybody. I think that's really hard because there's a lot of really talented people. You put them in the room with them though, and they're a jerk, or they're like, and nobody wants to work with them. I'm like, I don't care how talented you are. If you're not fun to be around, I don't want to do it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't care.
The pitch thing was just for me, but and to be funny. But I'm in this place of being like, I think I need to like it's gonna be in its own time. Like I'm like, I don't know how. Like I don't know if that person's even here. Because it feels like this is more of like the writer. This isn't where like business, and I'm a little bit more like. Not like I'm not from the South. I'm not. I move at a different pace.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know where my person is. If you're there, I'm excited to meet you one day. Wherever you are.
Wherever you are.
But it's like in the right context. I'm sure I'll meet that person.
I've always heard that like the best managers are not found; they find you.
Yeah.
And
that's why I'm not.
I think that's so true.
Thing.
Like even with the Dave thing, it was like, it was basically like someone was like, "Hey, why isn't Dave managing you?" Like who was on his team. It's like we do so much stuff with you with this, with Matt Braunley, and like we're like.
Was it Emily Kaiser?
No, it was this other guy at the time named who was the day-to-day for Dave at that time, and he was like, "Why doesn't Dave just manage you?" And
we can bleep it. It was Jordan Madison.
Yeah, it was Jordan Madison, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know. It just hasn't really ever come up. Is that something you guys want to do?" And he's like, "Let me talk to him." And then they were like, "Yeah, we really want to do this." And I think they saw a lot of what Matt has, not in the same skill set, but the same drive and personality, self-starting kind of thing. They were like, "Oh, he has this too, and this really works with us for really well. And so maybe we'll do well with him." And like, so in some ways, they kind of found me. And I think that was the best way for it to happen.
I feel like that's the only way for it to happen. My first manager was like that. And then I like left and went backpacking and stopped doing music. And then I had for a short time here, management, but like it's, I'm putting it out there.
The thing is too, it's like the more cool stuff you're working on with all these different people, and like, you'll just, somebody you're collaborating with or whatever, they'll have a manager and be like, "Man, they're awesome," and like I can trust them, and they really know how to work with me, and like we're communicating well, and like it's it's like, what would it be like to be with them? That would be so cool, And
I'll have to like be less of a control freak and just be like.
That is really. I'm learning a bit of that right now. I just signed publishing, and.
Oh, dude, that's right.
I've
that's
been
the first
independent
time in your career.
It's like, well, it's the first time in 10 years.
You had publishing deals.
I have
before?
small publishing deals before that, but they weren't the same thing. It was like either attached to a record deal or they were for a certain genre. Like this was the first time, and the first time after some success that I was like, okay, I am handing some of what I've built to you, and it was really hard. It was really hard, and I'm like still a bit of a control freak. But this person, some of the people I work with, they're really emotionally healthy. They're professionally healthy. And so when I do something that's unhealthy, or I do something that crosses over lines or whatever else that I will do because I'm a go-getter and I'm crazy, and like I'm like, if I'm not getting what I need,
you're proactive.
I'm like, I'm gonna go get it.
Me too. You step on people's toes on your team.
I step on so many toes. I step on egos.
Yeah, dude, me too.
And these people are they're really gentle with me in the sense of like, they're not babying me, but they're being direct, and they're being like, "Hey, I noticed this is happening, and like this is how we actually do it, and I'd like for you to do it this way, and it's kind of in your best interest, kind of thing, you know."
Yeah.
And I get mad, and it frustrates me, but then I'm like,
they're like, "We need you to trust us and not micromanage us.
We need you to trust us," and I'm like, "I don't trust anybody," And it's like, but I think over time there will be trust that's built, and as things work, but I think also too is a bit of growth for me to like let go, stop holding on so tightly, like. Not everything that's great is going to be from you doing it,
Yeah, that's the thing. I have to let go.
Yeah. Kind of impossible when you're a control freak, and it's like you've been reinforced to think that like, well, when I take control of things and I'm really squeeze on them, like that's when good stuff happens, because a lot of your successes, some of it's happened like that, where you're really driven and you make it, and it's your idea and it's your drive and it's your blah blah. But then when you get to a certain point, you have to, like, if you want to go to the next level, you take your hands off the wheel and you go, I sign to these people because I trust them. I believe in who they are, that they're good at their job, that they have, the skills to take me to the next place. And to realize they signed you because they think you're good. Stop thinking that they think you're not good, or they don't value what it is that you do, or whatever, don't think that anymore. Like, it's like I'm almost having to get healthy. I'm having to get healthy with my interactions and professional and, and these people, the company I'm with, luckily, and the people I'm dealing with are really healthy and they're really emotionally healthy and very like direct. And it's kind of like forming me a
refreshing.
bit and it's refreshing. And it's like, okay, we don't have to like be mean to each other or like go for the jugular. We can just say what we need and express it. And then we try to do better for each other. And hopefully, we learn how to work together and do some great work. Because it's a business.
That's what's up. Yeah, because ultimately it's a business.
Yeah, we don't need to be doing that.
Speaking of, do you think it's like so extra that I sent? Okay, so I sold my catalog. I don't know if I'm going to cut this because I don't know if I'm allowed to like talk about this yet.
Yeah.
But so I sold the catalog and I was like, what? I send like thank you cards to like everybody I work with.
Oh
like,
my god.
Whenever I land a sync, like everything, or like Katie Jellin, like I'll send her a bottle of wine, like whatever. So I was like, what is your guys' address?
Yeah.
Because I want to like send some swag.
Yeah.
And they were like, you don't need to do that. That's so sweet. And I was like, okay, but I want to. Like, what's your address? So anyway, I went like over the top, like kind of extra.
What did you do?
I ordered these hats.
Oh my gosh.
Well, as like a test run, I wanted like hats anyway.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like try out some like new designs, but I didn't want to like commit to like a full run. So I was like, okay, I could use this as an opportunity to just do like a little test run.
Yeah.
Like a small batch, and then I'll just like send them out to them. So I sent them like I packed it today, like a box of like shirts.
Yeah.
Socks. Oh, I'll give you a pair before you go. Hats.
Well, when I signed my publishing deal, I gave everybody on the immediate staff like sweatshirts with my face on it.
That is amazing.
And so like it was funny because
I love it.
It wasn't cheap. It ended up being like, I don't know, to give that many people sweatshirts, it was like at least $600, $1,000. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot. But I'm like, $1,000? Am I really doing this? Like,
yeah, dude.
Like I'm like, just to give them a sweatshirt. I don't even know if they're gonna wear it. They may hate it. But it was the best thing I ever did because, like, for the next few months, because it was still kind of cold in LA, and for the next few months, the guys that I signed with, they were like, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but that was marketing genius. I'm seeing your face every day. I can't help but think about you, and
that's incredible.
And honestly, too, at some level, I just want them to know that I'm excited, I'm thankful, I'm just pumped to be there, and like. And here's my merch.
That's what it was. And I wrote a note in it, and a part of me is like I've written notes to people I've opened for before.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't know if they really care. Like I've written notes to like, but in this case, I'm like, I mean, you songs like you you have to know who I am. Like obviously we've been talking. Yeah. So like I wrote a note about how like. And perhaps I'm too sentimental about it, and it is just business for them. I don't know, but like, I was like, I did like I started writing in my dorm room, and like some of these songs that I get that were are not like earners. They're just like on my catalog, and them are the first songs I've ever written.
So crazy.
But like. Like I spent a lot of money on hats, basically. It's like that.
That's so funny.
But it was like it feels good, and now I just need to figure out like what I'm gonna do with my time, which I think right off the bat just gonna be like getting a trainer.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna like use my extra free time to just like kind of get right.
Yep.
So that I can perform and be like. Operate from a place of like full wellness because I'm not scrambling anymore.
I think the moment where I knew that and I come from like probably like low to middle income level family, like when I felt rich was when I was going to the dentist. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm going to the dentist. Like they're looking at my teeth every X amount of time. I have 0 cavities. I'm like, they're taking care of
You're getting to go like once a year.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my mom was amazing about it. But like as I left her nest and I became this poor, this ultra poor band guy, it was like. I'm not going to the dentist. It was multiple years before I would, and then I'd get cavities all the time, and like like to be at a place where I'm like, okay, I'm supporting myself and I can go to the dentist. I'm
Fuck,
rich, you know.
You're rich.
I got all of my teeth, you know.
Oh my goodness. That's
So-
amazing.
So funny.
That's so funny, dude. We're so blessed. Too blessed to be
Hashtag
stressed.
blessed. Too blessed to be stressed.
Too blessed to be stressed. What message do you want to leave for the children of whoever sees this?
Yeah, I mean,
What's next? I'll put up your show post. When's the first show of this run?
well, so I'm trying to think. It's a little ways out. I have a bunch of random one-offs. Like I'm doing like, I think the first show is like November something. I'm doing So I'm like doing Chicago, L.A. and Dallas, because those are where I see the most fan activity happening. So it'll be really interesting to go there and see what happens.
Cool.
And it's not like a full-on tour. It's just a few shows just to see, like, is this something people even want, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And but I've made each show like ultra special. I haven't even really told people that I'm doing this, but the Chicago show has a local opener that's there, and then my buddy Bryce Fox, who I brought out when we did the Loser tour. But then the Dallas show, I have this band. Oh my gosh, I'm going to forget their name. But they're amazing. I heard their music. They're just this local Dallas band that I thought was amazing. I think it's Saint Blonde. And they're going to be opening in Dallas. And
Cool.
I'm really pumped about that. I feel like that's going to be epic to have them on that one.
What's the venue in Dallas?
It's like, I think that one's... I'm gonna name them wrong. I think that one's Club Dada, which I've never heard of in my life, but I know it's kind of like epic for that area.
Cool.
Like, but I'm like, Dada, that's the funniest thing. But then in LA, I have this artist named Brasco who's gonna be playing with me.
Oh my God,
he's
so
gonna be
fun.
supporting that. He'll be like in the middle, old
Cool.
Nashville homie that's
Yeah.
now in LA doing big things. And my buddy, this girl named Canner, who I just met, and she is a badass. And so having them on that show, each show is going to be like its own thing.
Cool.
I'm sure each night's going to feel ultra different.
Are you doing a Nashville show?
I'm not doing a Nashville show because I've done one recently. So, for this, it was just kind of testing out places I haven't been, getting out of Nashville to see what that feels like in these different places, and just hopefully to be surprised and shocked and like, oh, wow, people came, people cared.
Totally.
So.
Oh my God. And it's going to be like oranged out.
It's going to be all orange. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I've been a little crazy with the orange thing, but it's really
so
fun.
sick.
I've avoided orange my whole life because of my red hair, but now that I'm embracing the red hair, I think, and this album is like unabashedly me. I think because of that, you got to include the orange.
I love it.
Have to.
Well, we'll list the dates here.
Yep, right there.
We'll put it up right here. We never introduced you. Sam Tinnesz, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll just open with that. All right. Peace.